Magandang araw sa ating lahat. Welcome to our discussion for LBV GMath 1-2.5b. This is the second video on our discussion in finding the domain and range of rational functions. I am Engineer Peter Benjamin Obiano, your lecturer for this video. Take note that this video is still under rational functions, the second chapter under functions and their graphs. For our topic outline, first, we will have a short review on getting the range of a function, and then, after that, let us solve for the range of simple rational functions. If you recall, ang naging focus natin sa LBV 1-2.5a is on finding the domain of rational functions. Sa video naman na ito, ang magiging focus natin is in finding the range. Yun nga lang, sa ngayon, ang hahanapan lang muna natin ng range ay yung mga, well, para sa akin, mga simple rational functions. At the end of the video, I hope that we will be able to learn how to find the range of simple rational functions. Before watching the video, para hindi tayo masyadong mahirapan, I hope alam na natin paano mag-graph ng functions, especially those that represent lines and parabolas. Kasi hindi ko na i-expound mamaya kung paano natin makukuha yung halimbawa, vertices ng parabolas, para makuha yung mga x and y intercepts ng mga lines. So, hindi ko na po i-discuss in detail kung paano nakuha yung mga yan. So, I hope by this time, alam nyo na kung paano kunin yung mga yan. Second, before watching this video, I hope na alam na natin kung paano kumuha ng domain ng mga rational functions. So, it's very important that we know how to get the domain of rational functions. Sige, review muna tayo. Paano kunin ang range ng isang function? Balikan natin saglit ang domain. Ano ulit ang domain? The domain of a function is the set of all possible input values for a function. So again, let's say we have a function f and magpapasok tayo ng x. So ang lalabas ay f of x. Kung ano yung mga pwedeng ipasok as inputs, kung ano yung mga pwede mong gamiting values ng x, yun ang tinatawag natin na domain. Kaya nga 'di ba, meron tayong pangalawang definition sa domain. And I believe ito yung naging basihan natin sa pagsosolve ng domain ng rational functions last time. So hindi ba, the domain of a function is the set of all real numbers except those that will make the function undefined. Ang domain ng isang function involves lahat ng real numbers maliban sa mga numbers na gagawin nilang undefined yung function. 'Di ba? Nakita natin sa last video, hindi pwede na negative number ang nasa loob ng square root. Kung mayroon kang fraction, dapat hindi magiging 0 yung denominator. If meron kang ratio, dapat hindi maging 0 yung denominator. Yung mga bagay na gano'n, no? Yun yung mga kailangan nating bantayan para ma-ensure na walang mangyayaring undefined sa ating function. Again, kung yung mga numbers na yon ay gagawin nilang undefined yung function natin, hindi natin sila pwedeng gamiting inputs. And therefore, hindi sila kasama sa domain ng ating function. So I hope clear na po sa atin kung ano ang domain ng isang function. Now, ano naman ang range? Kung ang domain ay set of inputs, ang range naman ay set of outputs. So, yun lang yan. Kung ang domain ay inputs, ang range ay outputs. So, range is the set of all possible output values for a given function. Ano ang lahat ng mga pwede mong makuhang sagot sa function natin? Yun ang range ng function na iyon. So I hope clear po ito sa atin. Ano? Sige, para mas malinaw pa, let's have examples. Balikan natin yung example natin last video. Let's say you have function f of x equals x plus 1. Tapos, let's take a look at some combinations, input-output combinations. If x is 1, ano ang lalabas na sagot? It's positive 2. If x is negative 1, ang lalabas na sagot ay 0. If x is 2, ang lalabas na sagot is 3. Tapos, di ba, nalaman natin na kahit anong real number, pwede mong gamiting inputs. Kahit anong real number, pwede mong gawing inputs sa function. Therefore, the domain of this function consists of all real numbers. Now, how to get the range? Yan. We have two ways to get the range. One is simply by analyzing the behavior of the function. And second, later, it is by observing the graph of the curve. Unahin natin yung analyzing the curve. Take note that as x approaches negative infinity, f of x approaches negative infinity. So, balikan natin si f of x equals x plus 1. Kapag pababa ng pababa yung value ng x, hindi ba pababa din ng pababa ang value ng f of x? Since pwede mong gamitin kahit anong values ng x, pwede mong gamitin kahit gaano pa kababang negative number for x. So, yun nga yun. Kapag si x ay pababa ng pababa, palapit ito ng palapit sa negative infinity, yung value ng f of x mo, palapit din ng palapit sa negative infinity. Ganon din yung mangyayari sa kabilang side. As x approaches infinity, f of x approaches positive infinity. Habang pataas ng pataas ang value ng x, ang value ng f of x ay pataas din ng pataas. Again, since the domain is all real numbers, darating yung point na sobrang taas na ito, sobrang taas din ng f of x. So, yun lang yung gustong sabihin nito. Okay. Thus, the possible values of f of x can be any value from negative infinity to positive infinity. Therefore, the range of our function consists of all real numbers. Okay? So, yun lang. So, kahit anong number, pwede mong i-substitute sa x. Ano yung mga makukuha mo? Ano yung mga pwede mong makuhang sagot? Kahit anong number din, pwede mong makuhang sagot. Yun ang tinatawag na range. Now, let's now take a look naman at the graph. Sometimes, yung iba, mas nadadalian kapag gagamit ng graph. Alright, using what we learned from our past mathematics subjects, the given function represents a line. So, hindi ba kung si f of x, papalitan ko ng y, yung y equals x plus 1 represents a line. The line has an x-intercept at negative 1, 0. Paano ulit natin makukuha itong x-intercept? Diba? Ang gagawin lang natin, isi-set natin yung y na 0 and then solve for x. Again, ang parang y natin dito ay yung f of x. Isi-set natin yung f of x na 0, tapos hahanapin natin yung value ng x. Diba? If f of x is 0, solving for x, we will get negative 1. So, kaya nga, that's the x-intercept. Negative 1, 0. The line has a y-intercept at 0, 1. Paano naman kunin yung y-intercept? Diba? Yung y-intercept, yung x naman ang gagawin mong 0 and then solve for the value of f of x. If x is 0, the value of f of x is 1. Kaya ang y-intercept natin ay nasa 0, 1. So I hope alam nyo pa kung paano kumuha ng x and y-intercepts ng ating line. Sige, so ito yung mga information na nakuha natin kanina. let's now graph our line. So, you have your x-intercept. We have our y-intercept. This is now our line. Ano yung i-observe mo dito? I-observe natin ano ang behavior ng graph na ito. So, take note, itong line na ito, this line is the graph for f of x equals x plus 1. Okay, so ano ang mga pwede nating ma-observe mula sa graph na ito? Actually, we will observe the same observation na nakuha natin kanina. So, let's take a look. Ano ang nangyayari sa value ng f of x? Ano ang nangyayari sa line habang pababa ng pababa yung x mo? Ano ang nangyayari sa line habang napupunta sa left side yung ating graph? As you can see, habang yung x mo pababa ng pababa, so negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and so on, habang bumababa yung x natin, ano ang nangyayari sa line natin? Bumababa din ito. Therefore, as x approaches negative infinity, the value of f of x approaches negative infinity as well. Habang bumababa yung x, yung values ng f of x mo bumababa din. Paano naman kapag sa kabilang side? Kapag pataas ng pataas yung values ng x natin, as your x approaches positive infinity, ano ang nangyayari sa line natin? Hindi ba? Tumataas din. So therefore, as x approaches infinity, habang tumataas yung x mo, yung ating line, pataas din ang pataas. Thus, the possible values of f of x can be any value from negative infinity, the lowest possible number that you can think of, to positive infinity. Walang butas sa graph, tuloy-tuloy lang siya. Therefore, pwede mong makuhang sagot kahit anong real number. Thus, the range of the function is all real numbers. Ganun lamang po yun. That is how you get the range of our function. Let's have another example. Let's say f of x is squared. So let's say you have 1 as x. Kapag 1 ang ipinasok mo sa x squared, hindi ba ang makukuha mong sagot ay positive 1? Pag ang ipinasok mo ay negative 1, ang makukuha mong sagot ay positive 1 pa rin. Pag ang ipinasok mo ay positive 2, ang makukuha mong sagot ay positive 4. If ang ipinasok mo ay negative 2, ang makukuha mong sagot is positive 4. So again, di ba, x squared is a polynomial. Kung naalala nyo pa, di ba, basta polynomial yung function natin, the domain is the set of real numbers. The domain consists of all real numbers. Kahit anong real number, pwede mong ipasok as x. Lahat ng real number, pwede mong kuhanan ng square. Domain yon. Ano naman ang masasabi mo sa output? What can you observe about our outputs? Yun yung range natin. So again, let's analyze this in two ways. Let's analyze it by simply taking a look at the behavior of the function. Diba ganito siya? If x is 1, f of x is 1. If x is negative 1, f of x is positive 1. If x is positive 2, f of x is positive 4. If x is negative 2, f of x is positive 4. If x is 0, f of x is equal to 0. Now, ano ang pwede nating makuha dito? As you can see, the values of f of x will never be negative. Ang values ng f of x mo, never na magiging negative. Kasi di ba kapag nag-i-square ka, ang lagi mong makukuhang sagot is mga positive numbers. Of course, maliban na lang kapag 0 ang ipinasok mo, syempre 0 ang makukuha mo. Pero kahit anong number ang ipasok mo, aside from 0, kahit anong number ang ipasok mo, laging positive ang makukuha mong sagot. The values of f of x will never be negative. As x approaches negative infinity, kahit na let's say pababa na ng pababa yung x mo, still, f of x approaches positive infinity. As x approaches infinity, f of x approaches positive infinity then. Therefore, the range of the function is all non-negative real numbers. Or in terms of set builder notation, f of x such that f of x is greater than or equal to 0. So, ganun lamang po siya. Ano? That is how we get the range. Again, yung iba, mas nadadalian kung nag-graph. Sige. So, let's analyze the graph of the function. Using what we learned from our past mathematics subjects, hindi ba, ang x squared, this represents a parabola opening upwards. Ang kanyang vertex ay nasa 0, 0. Again po, hindi ko na i-discuss kung paano nakuha to. Pakibalikan na lang po yung geometry natin. Ito yung mga nakuha nating values. So again, the vertex is at 0, 0. Tapos, para lang medyo accurate ng konti yung graph natin, let's get some points. Again, if x is negative 2, f of x is positive 4. If x is positive 2, f of x is positive 4. Therefore, yung parabola mo ay dadaan sa negative 2, 4 at sa positive 2, 4. Nandito yung negative 2, 4. Nandito yung positive 2, 4. Ito ngayon ang itsura ng ating parabola. Once na nakuha mo na yung graph, ano ang masasabi mo about sa values ng f of x natin? As you can see, yun nga, walang negative number na makukuha for f of x. Hindi tatawid ng x-axis yung curve natin. So from the graph, as you can see, as x approaches negative infinity, habang pababa ng pababa yung value ng x mo, yung value ng function mo, pataas ng pataas sa positive side. Kapag naman yung x mo ay pataas ng pataas sa positive side, well, of course, yung f of x mo pataas din ng pataas sa positive side. The values of f of x will never be negative. Again, hindi tatawid ng x-axis. Hanggang x is 0 lang siya. Okay? Therefore, the range of the function is yun nga, all non-negative real numbers. Lahat ng positive numbers and 0. Or in terms of set builder notation, f of x such that f of x is greater than or equal to 0. So, ganun lamang po kumuha ng range. Okay po? So, I hope clear na po sa atin. Now, medyo mas madali ng konti mag-analyze ng range kung kinukuha natin yung graph ng function. That is why, sa solution natin later in finding the range of rational functions, we will make use of the graphing function. We will analyze the graph of the function. Sige, so we're done with the review. Let's now get the range of rational functions. Para hindi tayo masyadong mahirapan, so I just summarize na lang the steps. Again, this method is for simple rational functions. I'll explain na lang at the end kung ano ang ibig kong sabihin sa simple rational functions. For now, sa mga exercises natin, ito yung steps na gagamitin natin. Step 1, determine the values that will make the original rational function undefined. Step 2, simplify the given rational function. Step 3, substitute the values found in step 1 to the simplified function found in step 2. So again, ano yung mga values found in step 1? Ito yung mga values na magpapa-undefine doon sa original function. Step 4, plot the graph of the simplified rational function. Plot a hole on the values that we got in step 3. And lastly, let us analyze the resulting graph to get the range of the function. Ito po yung process na gagawin natin for this video. Sige. Let's have exercise 1. Find the range of x squared all over x. Again, step 1, determine the values that will make the original function undefined. Kailan magiging undefined ang x squared over x? Hindi ba, again, for rational functions, ang binabantayan lang naman talaga natin dito is, ano yung magpapa-zero sa denominator? Yun lang naman ang binabantayan natin. Kailan ba magiging 0 yung denominator? Siyempre, yung denominator ay magiging 0 if x is 0. So the function, the original function, will be undefined at x is 0. Step 2, let us simplify this given. Paano natin isi-simplify ang x squared over x? Well, hindi ba ang x squared is equal sa x times x? And as you can see, makakancel out yung x sa numerator at sa denominator. Maiiwan ngayon yung ating simplified function. Yung simplified function, tawagin ko na lang na g of x. Ano? So, the simplified function is x. Step 3, substitute the values found in step 1 to the simplified function found in step 2. Again, no? Ano ulit ang ginawa natin sa step 1? Hinanap natin yung x na magpapa-0 sa denominator at nalaman natin na ang magpapa-0 sa denominator is x equals 0. Yung simplified function naman na nakuha natin is simply x. Ano ang gagawin natin? Yung x na ito, isa-substitute mo dito. So, if g of x is equal to x and x is 0, what's the value of g of x? Of course, that is simply 0. Ano ang ibig sabihin ng nakuha natin? Again, hindi pwede na maging 0 yung x. Since hindi pwede na maging 0 yung x, hindi rin pwede na magiging 0 yung g of x. Kasi nga, hindi naman siya dadaan sa x equals 0 eh. So, ibig sabihin, hindi mo rin makukuha yung value na 0. So, therefore, later makikita natin, the graph of the original function must not pass through 0, 0. Again, ano tong 0 na to? Yun yung x na yan. Ano naman yung 0 na ito? Ito yan. Let us now plot the graph of the simplified rational function. Okay, so the simplified function g of x equals x represents a line that passes through the origin. From the previous step, we found out that the graph must not pass through 0, 0. Ano ang ilalagay natin sa 0, 0? Maglalagay tayo ng hole. We will place a hole doon sa value na hindi dapat daanan ng ating function. Okay? Now, let's plot the graph. So, the simplified function, again, g of x equals x is a line. So, syempre, lagay natin dito sa x-axis yung mga values ng x. Etong y-axis naman, yung mga values ng f of x. Again, it's just a line that passes through the origin. Kaya lang, anong sabi natin? From the previous step, yung value na 0, 0, hindi mangyayari. Kasi nga in the first place, hindi dapat dumaan sa x equals 0 yung ating graph. Kaya, anong gagawin natin sa 0, 0? Sa may 0, 0, maglalagay tayo ng hole. Lalagyan natin ng butas. Ibig sabihin, hindi dadaan yung curve sa 0, 0. Okay, let's now go to the last step. Let us analyze this line. Ano ang makukuha natin, no, na information from the line? As you can see, as x approaches negative infinity, f of x also approaches negative infinity. Habang yung x ay palapit ng palapit sa negative infinity, yung value ng f of x natin, palapit din ng palapit sa negative infinity. As x approaches positive infinity, f of x also approaches positive infinity. Habang pataas ng pataas yung value ng x natin, pataas din ng pataas yung value ng f of x natin. However, take note, f of x ay hindi magiging 0. Again, dahil may butas tayo doon, no? Hindi siya pwedeng maging 0. Ano ngayon ang range natin? Makikita natin na the range is a real number anywhere from negative infinity to positive infinity except 0. So, pwede kahit anong real number maliban sa 0. Okay? Ito na yung mga observations natin. Pwede na nating sabihin yung sagot. So, what is the range? All real numbers except 0. In terms of set builder notation, ito siya. So, f of x is a real number such that f of x is not equal to 0. Or in interval notation, I hope alam nyo na gamitin ito. Ano? It's negative infinity to 0. union of 0 to infinity. Again, yung 0 mismo hindi kasama, kaya gagamit tayo ng parenthesis. So, kung gusto mong sabihin na lahat ng real number maliban sa 0, kunyari, ito yung paraan kung paano sabihin yon. I hope clear po sa atin kung paano natin nakuha yung range. As you can see, mas mahirap kunin ang range kaysa sa domain. Let's have another exercise. F of x is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 15 over x plus 3. Again, step 1, ano yung mga values ng x na magpapa-undefined sa original function natin? Ang binabantayan lang natin ay yung x plus 3. Yung x plus 3 hindi pwedeng maging 0. Therefore, gawin natin ganito. I-equate natin ito sa 0. Solve for x, ang lalabas negative 3. Ibig sabihin nito, yung value ng x mo ay hindi pwedeng negative 3. Kasi nga, if that's the case, magkakaroon ka ng division by 0. Hindi pwede yon. Step 2, let us simplify the original rational function. Let's use factoring. X squared minus 2x minus 15 is equal to x minus 5, x plus 3. As you can see, x plus 3 will cancel out. Therefore, ang maiiwan lamang ay x minus 5. Thus, our simplified function, again, tawagin ko lang na g of x to avoid confusion. Yung na-simplify natin na function is x minus 5. So, this is the original function. This is the simplified function. Step 3, i-substitute yung x na nakuha natin sa step 1 sa simplified function na nakuha natin sa step 2. Again, ano yung magpapa-0 sa denominator? It's negative 3. Ano yung simplified function kanina? It's x minus 5. So, ang gagawin natin, yung negative 3, isa-substitute natin sa x minus 5. If you do that, solving for the answer, we will get negative 8. Again, hindi pwede na yung x mo ay maging negative 3. Since hindi dadaan yung graph sa negative 3, imposible na makakakuha ka ng sagot na negative 8. Hindi mangyayari yung x na negative 3. Therefore, hindi rin ito mangyayari. Kaya, ano ngayon ang sasabihin natin? Yung graph natin later, hindi dadaan sa negative 3, negative 8. Yun yung lalagpasan. Yun yung lalaktawan ng graph natin. Alright, let's plot the simplified rational function. Again ang plina-plot mo yung na-simplify. Hindi yung original. Yung na-simplify. Okay. And then put a hole on the value that we got in step 3. Ano ba ang masasabi natin about sa x minus 5? Hindi ba ang x minus 5, this is a line. The x-intercept is 5, 0. Again, para makuha yung x-intercept, gawin mong 0 yung g of x and then solve for x. Makukuha mong sagot, 5. Ang y-intercept nito ay nasa 0, negative 5. Paano naman nakuha to? Diba? Isa-set mong 0 yung x and then solve for g of x. You will get negative 5. From the previous step, step 3, kanina nakita natin, hindi dadaan yung original function sa negative 3, negative 8. Sige, i-plot na natin ngayon. So again, yung x-axis is of course the values of x, the y-axis is the value of f of x. So ito yung mga nakuha natin. Again, x minus 5 is a line with x-intercept at 5, 0, so somewhere here, and y-intercept at 0, negative 5, so somewhere there. Ibig sabihin, ito yung line natin. Kaya lang, hindi dapat dadaan sa negative 3, negative 8. Nasaan yon? So, negative 3, negative 8. Somewhere here. So, hindi pwedeng dumaan dito yung graph natin kasi hindi mangyayari yon. Hindi dapat mangyari yon. Kaya sa negative 3, negative 8, maglalagay tayo ng hole. Yan, may butas tayo dyan. Sige, let's now observe. Let's analyze this graph. As x approaches negative infinity, f of x approaches negative infinity. Habang pababa ng pababa yung x mo, habang yung x mo ay lumalapit sa negative infinity, anong nangyayari sa line natin? Pababa din ito ng pababa. Thus, if x approaches negative infinity, the value of f of x also approaches negative infinity. Ano naman ang nangyayari habang tumataas yung value ng x? As x approaches positive infinity, your graph, your function f of x also approaches positive infinity. Habang tumataas yung value ng x, tumataas din ang value ng f of x natin. Kaya lang, take note, yung f of x ay hindi dapat maging negative 8. Yung f of x mo, hindi dadaan sa negative 3, negative 8. Therefore, ang value ng f of x ay hindi pwedeng maging negative 8. Therefore, pwede lahat ng real numbers maliban sa negative 8. Maliban sa negative 8. So, I hope clear po yan. Sige, let's now state our answer. So, the range of the function is all real numbers except negative 8. In terms of set builder notation, f of x is a real number such that f of x is not equal to negative 8. Or in interval notation, it's this one. So, negative infinity to negative 8, union of negative 8 to infinity. Again, hindi kasama yung saktong negative 8, kaya open interval yung gagamitin natin. Ganun lang mag-solve ng mga simpleng rational function. Sige, let's go to our last exercise. Find the range of x plus 2, x squared minus 1 over x minus 1. Again, step 1, ano yung mga values ng x na magpapa-undefine sa function natin? Kailan ba magiging 0 ang x minus 1? So, let's equate x minus 1 to 0. Solving for x, you'll get positive 1. The original function will be undefined at x equals 1. Ibig sabihin nito, iiwasan natin ang x equals 1. Now, let us simplify this one. Kung pwede, let's simplify. Pag hindi pwede, o di as is na siya. Pero, based on this one, pwede. Hindi ba? Pwede natin i-factor out yung x squared minus 1. Ito ay magiging x plus 1 times x minus 1. Makakancel out yung x minus 1 sa numerator at sa denominator. Ang maiiwan lamang ay x plus 2 times x plus 1. If you want, you can combine them. Pero actually, kahit hindi na. Pero kung gusto mong gawing iisang polynomial, pwede rin naman. So, this is our simplified function na again, tatawagin ko lang na g of x. Okay. Sabi natin kanina, sa step 1, hindi pwedeng dumaan sa x equals 1 kasi magiging undefined yung function natin. Sige. Tapos, ito yung nakuha nating simplified function. Let us substitute x is 1 here. In doing so, we will get positive 6. Again, ano ulit ang interpretation nito? Hindi dapat maging 1 yung x. Imposible na magiging 1 yung x. Ibig sabihin din nito, imposible din na makakakuha ka ng sagot na 6. Imposible yung input na 1, imposible yung sagot na 6. Therefore, later, pag mag-graph tayo, hindi dapat dadaan yung graph sa 1, 6. Okay, so again, ito yung original, ito yung simplified. Tapos, again, optional na lang kung gusto mong i-combine. Pero actually, okay na hanggang dito na lang tayo. Sige, let us now plot the graph and maglagay sa hole doon sa hindi pwedeng daanan ng graph. Alright, your simplified is x squared plus 3x plus 2. This represents a parabola opening upwards. So, I hope alam nyo pa kung paano natin nasabi yon. Ang vertex is nasa negative 3 halves, negative 1/4. Again, I hope alam nyo pa kung paano kumuha ng vertex. The parabola will pass through x-axis at negative 1, 0 and negative 2, 0. Paano natin nakuha iyon? Paano nakuha yung x-intercepts? Again, di ba? I-equate mo lang yung gx sa 0 and then solve for the values of x. You'll get negative 2 here and you will get negative 1 here. Kaya nga, you have negative 1, 0 and negative 2, 0. The parabola naman will pass through the y-axis at 0, 2. Yung y-intercept. Again, paano ulit kunin to? Iset mo naman na 0 yung x and then solve for g of x. You will get positive 2. Tapos kanina, nakita natin hindi dadaan yung graph natin sa 1, 6. Sige, gawin natin yun, Alright. So again, x-axis is for the values of x. The y-axis is for the value of f of x. Again, parabola, therefore, we need the vertex and some points to graph it accurately. So the vertex is at negative 3 halves, negative 1/4. Sabihin na natin, somewhere here. So sabihin na natin yan yung point natin. Alright. Dadaan yung parabola mo sa negative 1, 0 at negative 2, 0. So let's say, nandito yung negative 1, 0, nandito yung negative 2, 0. Dadaan din yung parabola natin sa 0, 2. Actually, yung pagkuha ng intercepts, optional to. Kinuha lang natin para medyo accurate ng konti yung graph natin. So, yun lang actually yung purpose kung bakit ko kinukuha yung intercept. Para lang, mas magandang tignan yung graph natin. Alright, so again, it's a parabola opening upwards. So, it will look like this. Yan. Kaya lang, yung parabola mo ay dapat hindi dadaan sa 1, 6. Nasaan yun? 1, 6. Dito. So, hindi pwedeng dadaan dito yung ating parabola. So, maglalagay tayo dito ng hole. Yan. So, maglalagay tayo ng hole. Now that we have our graph, let us now observe this graph and let's get the range. Okay, as x approaches negative infinity, f of x approaches positive infinity. Habang yung x mo ay papunta sa negative infinity, ano ang nangyayari sa f of x mo? As you can see, habang yung x mo ay bumababa, yung value ng f of x mo tumataas. As x approaches negative infinity, the value of f of x approaches positive infinity. Paano naman sa kabila? As x approaches positive infinity, f of x approaches positive infinity as well. Habang patas ng pataas yung ating x, habang patas ng pataas yung value ng x, pataas din ng pataas yung value ng f of x. Kaya lang, as you can see, based on the graph, the lowest point is the vertex. Yung vertex, siya yung pinakamababang point ng parabola. Ibig sabihin nito, the value of f of x will not be lower than your vertex. The value of f of x ay hindi bababa sa negative 1/4. Okay? Kaya nga mas maganda kapag i-graph mo siya kasi malalaman natin hanggang saan yung value ng x. So, since alam natin na parabola, opening upwards at imposible naman na mas mababa ka sa vertex, therefore, hanggang dito lang yung values ng f of x natin. And aside from that, the function of f of x will not pass through 1, 6. Kaya nga tayo may hole doon. Kaya lang ganito. Nasanay kasi tayo, porket may hole doon, sasabihin mo na, all real numbers except 6. Well, that's actually wrong in this case. Bakit? Yes. Hindi ka makakakuha ng 6 kung dito ka titingin. Pero ang tanong, base ulit sa graph, may magbibigay ba ng sagot na 6? Makikita natin, meron. As you can see, base sa graph natin, posible ka pa rin na makakuha ng 6, kaya lang sa kabilang side, sa negative 4. Tama? Wala namang hole dito Wala naman tayong hole dito. So, ibig sabihin nito, may magbibigay ng sagot na 6. Si negative 4. Okay? Ganito kapag parabola, tignan nyo muna, bago mo sabihin na hindi kasama tong f of x na ito, check mo, baka ibibigay naman siya nung kabila. Ngayon, kung pati dito, kunyari lang nagkataon, pati ito, hole ito, let's say may hole dyan, doon mo palang sabihin na yung 6, hindi kasama. Pero, since may magbibigay ng 6, yung f of x equals 6 is part of the range. Kasama siya sa range. So I hope clear po iyon sa atin. Kaya nga, suggestion ko, aralin natin kung paano mag-graph. Mas madali natin makukuha yung range and actually mas safe yung solution natin if we are going to analyze the graph. Okay? So, the values of f of x is therefore from negative 1/4. So again, no, walang bababa sa negative 1/4. So magmula negative 1/4 hanggang sa positive infinity. So yun yung possible values ng f of x natin. From here up to positive infinity. Okay, let's now state our answer. So the range is all real numbers that are greater than or equal to negative 1/4. In terms of set builder notation, we'll get this. So f of x is a real number such that f of x is greater than or equal to negative 1/4. In terms of interval notation, ganito siya. Magmula negative 1/4 up to the highest possible number. Again, kasama yung saktong negative 1/4. Kaya, bracket ang gagamitin natin. Okay? So, you have a half open or half closed interval. So, I hope from these exercises, medyo na-familiarize tayo kung paano mag-solve ng range. Pero yun nga, ang present kong solution dito is actually for simple rational functions lamang. Kung napansin nyo, lahat ng sinolve natin, naka-cancel out yung denominator. Tama? So if you observe, yung sinolve natin from exercises 1, 2, and 3, pag sinimplify mo, mawawala yung denominator. Yun yung ibig kong sabihin ng simpleng rational function. But syempre, in reality, makaka-encounter ka ng hindi maka-cancel out yung denominator. Halimbawa, ito, pinatanong sa iyo, ano ang range nito? Wala. Hindi maka-cancel out yung denominator. And if this is the case, honestly, hindi na natin magagamit yung solution na present ko. Pwede pa rin naman. Kaya lang, kulang yung solution natin. Kasi in order to solve the range of problems like this, you should now consider yung mga tinatawag natin na asymptotes. Now, yung asymptotes kasi ay sa next MELC pa madidiscuss. Kaya, ang gagawin na lang natin, hanggang dito lang muna tayo, i-discuss muna natin ang asymptotes, and then, after discussing the asymptotes, saka tayo ngayon mag-solve ng range ng mga mas complex na rational functions. Okay po? Pero yung basics ng pagkuha ng range, wag kakalimutan kasi gagamitin pa rin naman natin ito sa next lessons natin. Okay po? Alright, so that's the end of this video. I hope naging malinaw po sa atin at natutunan natin paano kumuha ng range ng mga simpleng rational functions. Tapos na po tayo sa LBV 1-2.5b. Our next lesson na will be on the 6th MELC na. Panibagong MELC na tayo. So this will be on 1-2.6a. So ang 1-2.6 is on determining the intercepts, zeros, and asymptotes of rational functions. Again, if you want additional materials to study, you may refer to QuexHub on General Mathematics, Chapter 2. If may mga parts ng discussion na, let's say, naguluhan kayo, feel free na lang po na mag-chat. Feel free na magtanong po sa amin. Huwag po kayong mahiya. God bless po and see you sa next video.